do a Bad Girls episode of Graphic Adaptations, we're mainly going to be discussing characters created in the 90s. Bad Girls in comics are pretty interlaced with the Image Comics revolution, but today's feature character sees the published comic page first in 1981, and is something of a prototype for the Bad Girl template. She's sexy and dangerous, in a skimpy outfit and morally ambiguous, one of the more iconic Marvel women, and a definitive femme fatale, even modeling the design that would later be given to Psylocke from X-Men, because hey, if it's working, just do more of it. Today we're going to look at Elektra. This series, Graphic Adaptations, for the most part, has a formula. Take a specific volume of work that is going to be compared to a specific movie or TV series, but in this case, I'm not doing that because I'm not really sure that there is a definitive work that this movie is adapting, or even one book that defines Elektra to everyone's satisfaction, right? Like, I think the classic Elektra story of falling in love with Daredevil and then being murdered by Bullseye was the plot of the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie, and the Elektra movie that we're going to look at wasn't based on any specific book or storyline. The Frank Miller run on Daredevil Monthly is an undeniable classic, but I hesitate to suggest it to new readers today because it's just kind of dated now. Not that that's bad, but usually you want your recommended reading suggestions to go over well, and I think that series is a bit dry today. I really love the Daredevil Man Without Fear book. It's less dated, but still dated, and really it's a Daredevil book. Considering Frank Miller is the creator of Elektra, I thought perhaps his Elektra Assassin miniseries from 1986 would be a good starting place. Although, I'm aware that this isn't all that conventional or considered to be a definitive series for her character, and since I knew that going in, I also decided to add something more recent and see how that is, and that volume is Elektra, Black, White, and Red. A bit about Elektra first. Elektra Natchios is the daughter of a Greek ambassador, and when her mother is killed, she goes abroad to learn martial arts and is recruited by an evil ninja clan called the Hand. She's died and been resurrected in both comics and movies, and while her best live-action portrayal is played by I hope I'm saying that right, in the Daredevil TV series, it is in fact the Daredevil TV series, and we want to look at an Elektra movie, so that only leaves us with one result. The 2005 Jennifer Garner movie, and we'll get to that. But first, let's look at the two comic series, because I had a strange experience reading them back to back. First, let me give the context. Elektra Assassin is an 8-issue 1986 miniseries written by Frank Miller and illustrated by Bill Sienkiewicz, and it was published by Marvel under their Epic imprint. See, the 80s was interesting for Marvel because I think this is the first time that comics begin to very obviously outgrow the child demographic that they seem intended for. Specifically because I think this is the first generation that could say that they grew up with comics and now as adults wanted to help the medium grow with them. Writers like Miller and Alan Moore used the sequential panels to explore graphic art and see what else it could do, what else it could say. So series like Watchmen, The Dark Knight, and Sandman under imprints like Vertigo and Epic were brought out. Trial balloons. And this shit resonated, man. While Miller's original Daredevil run was darker and edgier than other superhero books, it was still very clearly in that world. It used the conventions of that house style, and it still fit on the shelf next to Amazing Spider-Man. These new books, they were breaking with convention. It was rock and roll. It was jazz. This book, for example, is painted. The panels aren't always boxed in. The layouts are unconventional. Each page looks like it's challenging what a superhero comic should or could be. The textures of Sienkiewicz's work are varied compared to the very basic pencil and inked classic style, and the book is cinematic, mood-driven, and atmospheric. Now, that all said, I didn't really care for the book all that much, if I'm being honest. Actually, I kind of hated reading it. I barely understood the story aside from the broad strokes that this takes place before her encounter with Bullseye that ends her life, so this is sort of a prequel. She starts in a mental asylum and then flashes to her carrying out an assassination. There's strange, ugly characters like a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent who's an alcoholic obsessed with Elektra after being blown up by her and has his body replaced with a robot body. There's a politician who's being controlled by a demon called the Beast, whom Elektra is supposed to kill. Nick Fury is in it, but I just don't care for the way it unfolds and how I'm navigating the story through Miller's endless, sprawling internal thoughts. It's just not my jam. It kind of feels like a Michael Mann film. I can see the influence of Garth Ennis, who would refine this into a more cohesive and digestible format when he tackles the edgier side of Marvel and Nick Fury or the Punisher for his Marvel Knights or Marvel Max books. I just don't usually have to spend 3 or 4 issues wondering what the hell is going on before I start enjoying the book. And throughout that narrative, Miller writes, it's a long, droning internal monologue that's as confused as the reader reading it. It's a style that I think works far better in Sin City, where the noir cliches seem to be done in loving tribute, while this book feels more like parody or satire. And satire's fine, but Miller's writing seems slapdash in parts and tedious in others, and then we get stuff every once in a while that just pops out of nowhere. Like, in issue 2, Elektra sees a woman getting tied up and about to be fed to a lion, and Miller writes her interior voice to say, quote, "They bind the woman and order her to scream. Her breasts are huge." It's okay, dude. Big boobs are nice, but maybe you needed a little stroke time and then get back to your writing, because this is Frank's thought. It's not Elektra's. Anyway, I could never diminish the influence this book had over the medium. I mean, we lived through the Morrisons and Millers and Ennises, so we know what tasty fruits this book would bear in an inspirational sense. So if it's your favorite book, I wouldn't argue with you, but it's just not mine. Now some context for Elektra Black, White, and Blood, or Black, White, and Red. Black and white is the basic framework all classic comic art starts as, the white paper and the black ink, and adding red is this excellent dramatic contrast, and of course aside from popping off the page, it also lends itself well to blood. Now interestingly, I think Frank Miller's work on Sin City is something of a pioneer of this style, or at least helped to make it cool. A Dame to Kill For used this exact same idea. That Yellow Bastard used yellow. You know, you get it. Well, in recent years, we've seen a whole series of titles. Wolverine has Black, White, and Blood series, as does Deadpool, Carnage, Moon Knight, Red Sonja, Alien. Spider-Man got a black suit in Blood, which is especially delicious because it denotes a specific time period for Spidey when he's wearing the black and white suit, which we all know becomes Venom, but also because of the violence and darkness that we don't usually see with Peter Parker. That gives writers a thematic pool to share, and that will connect the stories which otherwise could be totally random. It's a neat framework to put these series into. The Alien book, for example, also includes the color green, because alien blood is green. I kind of thought that it made it look like a Christmas book, but it was still pretty cool. The talent on this anthology series is also top-notch. A lot of names like Peach Momoko, Matthew Rosenberg, Declan Shelvey, Peter David, Charles Soule, Al Ewing, Mark Bagley, and a whole bunch of other people. And each of the 4 issues gives us 3 stories, adding up to a total of 12 short stories for Elektra, all in black, white, and red. And I love anthologies. I love the format that you can dip in and out. If you didn't like the first story of the issue, you got 2 others to look at. Highlights, for me, included there's a vampire story by Charles Soule, and while I've never considered myself a Bagley fanboy, his art here is wonderful. The Peach Momoko story called Assassin is pretty good. The Declan Shelvey story, that I didn't like the story itself, but the artwork by Simone Diarmini was just choice. The final story in issue 2 called Yokai by Greg Smallwood was fun and felt like something that I would have seen in Hellboy or Usagi. Weapons of Choice is a fun crossover where we get to see Elektra square off against Black Widow, who with her costume and red hair is a perfect candidate to guest star in a black, white, and red story. Ghost Rider is also featured in the story in the last issue, and for some reason the artist draws him like twice the size of Elektra. I'm not sure why. I mean, if he's a demon, I guess he could change size, but I don't think he does it very often, and it seemed unnecessary to me. And closing up the series, we get a Kevin Eastman story, which is excellent. Just getting to see Elektra drawn in his style. And also because, obviously, Frank Miller is a huge influence on the creation of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Stick is from Daredevil, and Elektra is an analogous to their parody with Splinter, right? A piece of wood and a splinter of wood, or the hand, which in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is the foot, right? So seeing him do Elektra, that's kind of cool. So here's my takeaway from reading these two very different series. On one hand, I think Elektra Assassin is a seminal work. It's influential and breaks preconceived notions of what comics can be and pushed the medium forward. Sienkiewicz's artwork is incredible and deserving of praise. But on the other hand, I hated reading it. I didn't like Miller's writing, and I think it hasn't aged very well in my opinion. But then in comparison to Black, White, and Blood, I think we have the reverse effect. I don't think this book pushed the medium forward at all. I don't think it'll be heralded as a classic comic revered in musty, dusty comic shops for decades, but I enjoyed it more. It was more fun and more kinetic and enjoyable to read, and if it wasn't, then within the next 10 pages I'd be on to a new adventure. The fun of the series is also that it's out of continuity, or at least I would assume so, since in one story Elektra's bitten by vampires. Refusing to become one of them, she waits for the sun to take her out in the dawn and turns to dust. So I'm going to use that, to guide myself there. So this is the kind of book that anybody can pick up at any time and enjoy without the worry of being overwhelmed by continuity. And that's a very common problem that I think comics have, where people often come into the shop and don't know where to start, or they're on Wikipedia or something reading people breaking down like the depth to which you have, all the different side quests and things you can go on, and feeling that reading old material is going to be such a slog to get through and not knowing where you could jump in for newer titles. So I think in that regard, it's pretty awesome. You could give it as a gift to anybody and they'd get what was going on here. Now, where does the movie fit in? Honestly, I don't know that it does. But you know where it filmed? Vancouver, Canada. That's right. And you know this. You know it. In your soul. The movie itself is a spin-off from the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie where she made her first appearance. There are brief flashbacks at the start to skip over the resurrection part. This movie focuses on her life as an assassin, and when she's asked to kill a 13-year-old girl, she has to make a decision. Even if she doesn't kill them, whoever hired her will hire someone else to finish the job. So she makes the choice to try and protect them, and in doing so, sets up a bunch of fight scenes with other magical ninja characters. Like this cool guy with the tattoos that come off of his body. That's pretty cool. Or the lady with the death touch, where everything around her rots, based on Typhoid Mary from the comics. That's also pretty cool, I guess. But then there's also this big guy named Stone, who throws a big axe, and it's so powerful it can cut right through a giant tree, and that seems really impressive. But if you wait a minute, he gets distracted for a second, and then the tree he chopped down falls on him. Like, Elektra running up the side of that tree is not going to change the trajectory of a massive tree. So that means he killed himself. He made a tree fall on him. That was his story. The story of Stone. And his name was lame, but the tattoo guy's name was Tattoo. So everything's relative. Elektra's name is often connected to psychologist Carl Jung's Elektra complex, which is a sexual competition with her mother for her father, and it's been largely dismissed in modern psychiatry, but it fits with a worldview that Miller likely has of outdated concept, and it fits his imprint on Elektra, who survived her father's murder at a critical time for her. Elektra, with a C, is also a reference to the mythological Greek tragic figure who murders her mother for killing her father. She is seen as fierce and vengeful as part of her identity, and I think the etymology of her name gives us a little glimpse into her intended character. And with the way that her father's killed and those familial connections and relationships she has and her career, it seems to bear out. In the movie, we get Jennifer Garner playing Elektra. Garner is more a Hollywood choice, and while she had experience doing fight scenes and physical work on Alias, Garner's far too soft and empathetic to me. She doesn't seem like a killer. I really just don't buy it, But that isn't as concerning as the fulcrum for the plot, which is that Elektra is kicked out of her ninja training by Stick, played by Terrence Zod Stamp, because he tells her she can't be trained to be a warrior for goodness.
When you came here, you were filled with anger. All the decency you once had poisoned by violence and tragedy. This is not the way.
So she becomes an assassin for hire. And then when she won't kill the girl, Stick tells her that he always knew she had a good soul, she just needed to know it herself. Except that, like, dude, she was an assassin for hire. She was an assassin for hire, bro. Like, she killed lots of people. And we hope that they were all bad, but that's not particularly realistic. And maybe, dude, maybe Stick, if you had just been a nice guy and a nurturing father figure for her and been supportive of her and said, I believe in you, you're a good person, she wouldn't have become a goddamn assassin. Like, how is that a win?
Is this a test, Sensei?
No, not a test. Just go.
I don't have anywhere to go.
It's one of those toxic relationships. Anyway, overall, I think this was an exercise in style over content, and many parts feel like we were stuck in an Evanescence music video. Director Rob Bowman is on record saying he was really pressed for time and on budget. But for a mid-2000s superhero movie, I think this is sort of par for the course, right? Like, her contemporaries at the time are Ben Affleck Daredevil, Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider, Ang Lee's Hulk, the Jessica Alba Fantastic Four, Blade Trinity, X-Men 3, The Last Stand. So, like, it's kind of right in the middle of that pack of whatever Hollywood, thing that is. There's also a director's cut, by the way, and I gotta be honest, I have no idea what the difference is between them. There's supposed to be like 4 minutes of extra footage and 7 minutes total changed, which I just don't think it's worth bothering to discern. I've seen them both multiple times, and honestly, I don't know what's different. I guess I'm not that much of a fanboy plugged into the details of the Elektra cinematic experience. Still, despite the lackluster box office performance, time proved there was some love yet for the 2005 movie when Garner was one of a number of cameos in the Deadpool Wolverine movie. And then it was fun to see her as the character again. That movie was like a nostalgia and meta-joke machine, but it worked. And it was a pretty good send-off for her version of the character. And now, with All Things, we've got a new version of the character, and new incarnations. We've got a new Elektra, and she actually seems much closer in tone to how the comics have her written. But there we have it. Two very different comic incarnations of Elektra in a Hollywood vehicle that was also very different. Thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I don't want to be a nag and ask you to hit the like button, but if you haven't done it already, you know why I have to ask. And if you did already, then you hold your head a little higher, okay? Because you know what? You're a good person. I'll see you guys all next week.